I woke up one morning with tears already rolling down my cheeks. I hadn't even gotten out of bed yet, and that set the tone for the whole week. From the moment I opened my eyes until the moment I went to sleep, I was crying. Not a few quiet tears here and there. I'm talking about the kind of crying that shakes your body, the kind where you feel drained before the day even starts. At first, I thought grief was taking me under again, but then my period came and it hit me. This wasn't just grief. This was grief colliding with my cycle. And why is no one talking about it? You're listening to Purpose, Not Pity, a space for stories that hurt, heal, and remind you that you're not alone. I'm Erika Hernandez, storyteller, bonus mom, grieving mother, healing human. This isn't a podcast about having it all figured out. It's about showing up in the middle of the mess, rebuilding piece by piece, and choosing purpose, not pity. Whether you're deep in your own grief, trying to find your voice again, or just searching for a little light in the dark, this space is for you. Let's talk about it, all of it. That week was a week I couldn't escape. It was tears in the car, tears in the shower, tears while putting on my skincare, my very good skincare, I must say. I would wipe my face, dab concealer under my eyes, and pray the swelling didn't show on camera. Work was brutal. Before every team call, I'd wash my face and make sure that my laptop was just right so people only saw me from the side. I made sure my mic stayed off most of the time. I gave quick answers, kept my head down. I even went as far as canceling or rescheduling meetings I knew I couldn't handle. I remember hovering over the leave meeting button more times than you can count, just wanting to disappear. Have you ever had to fake normal in front of a screen when inside you're falling apart? That's what that entire week felt like. I kept thinking, is this really year 2? Is this what people meant when they said year 2 takes you back to the day? His anniversaries was quickly approaching, and I told myself that must be the reason why I am feeling so undone. The heaviness was unbearable. I even called out of work. And if you know me, you know that is not something I do easily, but I did. And here's the strange part. I had all the signs that my period was coming. The bloating, the back pain, the cravings, the restless sleep. And I even track my cycle on an app. And even then, I still couldn't connect it because I was too fogged and too consumed with the countdown to September 2nd. It wasn't until I woke up one morning, went to the bathroom, and realized my period had started that it finally clicked. I sat there staring at myself thinking, this wasn't just grief. This was grief colliding with my hormones. And the relief that I felt in that moment, knowing that I wasn't sliding backwards in my grief journey, was like someone cracked open a window in a suffocating room. Because when grief and hormones collide, it doesn't just hurt. It amplifies everything. It's like two tidal waves crashing at the same time, leaving you gasping for air. And at 45 years old, I'm not only grieving my son, I'm also moving through perimenopause. Which means that some days I don't know if I'm crying harder because I miss him or because my estrogen dropped overnight. And the truth is, it's both. For me, there's another layer to that. I have rheumatoid arthritis. And that complicates things even more because RA flares and hormonal swings look almost identical when stress levels are high. There were moments I really truly thought and believed this is just grief. The grief is causing stress, the stress is causing a flare up. But in reality, it was all of it: grief, hormone, chronic illness colliding all at once. It's like carrying three storms in your body and not knowing which one exactly is drowning you. The first thing I did when it clicked was run to Google. Like, am I crazy? Or is this real? I typed in grief and menstrual cycle and almost laughed at myself because, like, who even Googles this? And what did I find? Almost nothing. A few small articles here and there, but not enough to answer my question. And that made me pause, because if this is something I am going through, I know for a fact I'm not the only one going through this. So why aren't we talking about it? Why is there silence? And that's when I knew I had to bring it here, because the conversations that don't exist are often the ones we desperately need. And since no one was explaining it to me, and I had to figure it out by myself, I started digging, reading, and going back a few months and trying to figure out what my body was actually going through. And here's what I learned about what's really happening when grief and hormones collide. Before your period, estrogen and progesterone drop. The hormonal crash is why people feel irritable, weepy, anxious, or bone tired. Estrogen also regulates serotonin, the chemical that helps stabilize your mood. So when estrogen dips, so does serotonin. And if you're grieving, that sadness doesn't just show up, it takes over. On top of that, grief itself raises cortisol, the stress hormone. Add PMS, and your body spikes even higher. Your chest feels heavy, your mind races, you can't sleep. It's a shit show. It's like grief already has the mic, and hormones walk in and crank up the volume all the way up. And when you add perimenopause, those hormones aren't steady to begin with. Some months grief feels manageable, other months it feels unbearable. Not because we're regressing, but because our bodies are shifting underneath us. The hard part, nobody names it. How many times have you heard someone brushed off as hormonal or moody? But add grief to that, and it's not moodiness, it's survival. Yet nobody says that. Nobody explains that this is why it feels unbearable right now. And in that silence, we start to think, is it just me? But it's not. Grief doesn't only live in our hearts, it lives in our body. For some, it's hormones. For others, it's lack of sleep, stress, illness, or aging. For women through menopause, grief may feel heavier because the hormones that soften the edge are gone. And for men, yes, men, grief still collides with your body, just in a different way. Anxiety, insomnia, fatigue. None of us are immune. For me, grief during my cycle feels stronger than any other heartbreak I've known because death is permanent. Divorce, you can heal and sometimes find love again. Jobs, they can be replaced. Friendships, rebuilt. But death is final. And hormones make that finality echo even louder. But still, whatever heartbreak you're carrying, Hormones don't separate it. They just amplify the pain that's already there. So now you must be asking, all right, so what do I actually do when this happens? For me, last month, I didn't do much besides give myself grace. I reminded myself I wasn't sliding backwards. It was just my body amplifying everything I was already carrying. But I do know there are things that make it easier. Sometimes it starts with just paying attention, tracking your cycle, noticing the patterns, so you're not blindsided when those heavier days come. And if you know they're coming, you can plan around them. Maybe not overload your schedule. Maybe give yourself more space to rest. Supporting your body matters too. For some women, that may look like adding things like magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin B, or even simple comforts like chamomile or raspberry leaf tea. For others, it's not about supplements at all. It's about checking in with a therapist, reaching out to a friend, or leaning on support groups for those couple of days. And maybe for you, it's something else. The point isn't to cure it. You can't fix grief. The point is to give yourself softness, to give your body a little more room to breathe when it feels like everything is colliding at once. If at some point in the month grief feels heavier, you're not imagining it. Your body and your heartbreak are colliding. Track it, prepare for it, let someone you trust know. Both hormones and grief come in waves. The heaviness will pass. You are still moving through it, even if in that moment it feels impossible. Our bodies are capable of miracles, and at the same time, they can make the simple act of surviving feel unbearably hard. That duality doesn't make us less. It makes us profoundly human. And maybe you've been there too, wondering why some weeks feel impossible, why the tears won't stop, why the grief feels louder. Maybe you thought it was just you, but it's not. Carrying it in silence makes it heavier, but naming it out loud gives us room to breathe. And breathing, even one shaky breath, is proof that we're still here, still living, still finding a way through. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and holding space with me today. If something in this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need it, or just let it sit with you. That's enough. You can follow along on TikTok and Instagram at by Erika Hernandez for more stories, updates, and little pieces of healing in real time. And remember, this journey isn't about perfection, it's about presence. I'll see you next time, and until then, keep choosing purpose over pity.